If you want the high, expect to have the hangover. You know, I guess what I want to say is that before, like I've noticed a change, you know, over just people in general, society in general, right? The collective thought of society. I've noticed a huge change, even from like my short life experience, being younger, like in the early 2010s, people trying to figure out, how to and even before the early 2010s. I guess this is more so I'm talking about before my time, like looking back on the internet, going through Reddit forums and all the articles online about health and fitness. And this is, yeah, the video is related around health and fitness and like gymnastics, athleticism, all this type of stuff, right? So looking back from think pieces from the 2000s and 1990s, stuff like that, like people were a lot more conscious about what they was trying to consume, or what could be consumed or should be consumed during that period of time, in order to advocate for a healthier and long lasting life, where they can live longer and grow to age and grow old, right? And feel as good as possible whilst doing it. Um, and it's not really focused on like the external, the looks necessarily. Although, of course, as a byproduct, when you're consuming products, natural food resources, um, that are curated, to the appropriate degree, whether it's fresh fruit and it just needs to be kind of cleaned, and or whether it's some type of meat from an animal and it needs to be cooked to the right, to the it needs to be cooked so that it's edible and consumable, and mixing those two types of foods together to have a more varied diet and to sustain a longer life. Doing things like that, what I'm trying to say is, internally gonna benefit you a lot. Like for the really just like the process of rejuvenation of your organs and the longevity of them, and then also that will reflect, like, because what's kind of in your gut will also reflect like externally as well, how healthy your gut is and stuff like that. It's going to reflect like on the quality of your skin, how many wrinkles start to appear on your face at what age, and so on. But nowadays, you fast forward from like the early 2000s, people was really into looking like how to age more gracefully and live a higher quality of life at an older age. Now, you fast forward from 2000s, where that was the thought process and that was the main concern of the general society at large, to now I believe like the main concern general of the general society at large is how to look better and how to do anything possible in order to look better, no matter what the potential side effects might be. And I think this is an issue. This is clearly like, a collective regression of the thought process of the people we have in our society today, like the average person, like Sally and Joe. Because Joe's thinking about taking steroids now, in, I would say mainly post 2010s, specifically post 2020s too, like 2020s decade, which is current decade we're in actually. And so, Joe, he's thinking about like, well, he could be anywhere between teenage years, like up until his 40s, and he's thinking like, damn, you know, I'm seeing other people around me shifting, their perspective and shifting what their interests into something else. I've noticed this shift too, where people once cared about like, just general like health and fitness and um, life expectancy extension. Now people more so care about how to look the best, and whether that requires surgery or not, or the use of like performance enhancing drugs, um, and over abusing like makeup, for women and stuff, and for men for like performance enhancing drugs for the gym to get bigger muscles to appear more attractive and more in a more primitive sense. And I get from both sides, from both genders. I understand why we have like, I guess why we do these things, because at least nowadays we're like, well, life expectancy is kind of long enough to a degree. So, on average, we're probably all going to live to at least 70 years old, 80 years old, something like that. So why not just like in that time try and see what I can do to look as young as possible for my whole existence here, even though you'll essentially be cutting your life short. Like you'll be probably, cutting your life by a quarter up to a half of it. So you won't even live those full 70 to 80 years. It might just be like, I don't know, between like 55, 60 years, maybe less than that, maybe in your 40s or something, you might pass away. But it's I think it's a decline of of having like the proper priorities of what you should like value in this life, and the value of life in and of itself. And I just think that people have just kind of, they're kind of numb to seeing success on social media, numb to seeing other people's results and highlights of their lives on social media. And to them, it seems unattainable to go about that in a more like natural sense, in a more kind of calm and peaceful way. And it's got to be done in this like super manufactured, expensive type of way. And they've got to just enhance themselves as much as possible, regardless of whether that's affecting their life expectancy over time. And I'm not really down for that. I'm gonna be honest. Like for me, I'm just like, okay, if I want to get big at the gym, I'm gonna just, now it might be easy for me to say because I'm considered to be young somewhat, but I'm gonna eat as much as possible. That being like, healthy, varied diets, and try and put on some size because I'm naturally like thin physically. I have more of like I'd say more of like a swimmer's body, runner's body, that type of physique, tall, slim. So why not just pack a few pounds and then start transferring that into muscle as I'm lifting? And I'm enjoying the whole process of just either naturally and like and really gaining size and strength, but in a way where I don't feel compromised while doing it. I don't feel like, damn, like I'm not constantly looking over my shoulder for the Reaper. Like, when's he gonna come and collect? Like, it's not really a life that I'd recommend, or that really should be recommended. But, people have insecurities and I get it. And I have my own that I'm working through. So I'm not perfect, but I just see certain things and I'm like, there is like no real gain to this. Like really and truly, there's no real gain. It's like, you can have all of that glitz and glamour. I just want to live my life, But that type of thought process really depends on your perspective on life. But yeah, just an eye-opening, just like a bit of a deep delve into this topic because I don't know, I find it interesting, and I see the shift of like people's behaviors, and I'm gonna continue seeing what the trends and what the shifts will be over time, and it's all interesting. So